Hi everyone, welcome back in another exciting project where we're going to be creating this product inventory application. So it's going to be a simple application, but the reason why I wanted to create this application is I wanted to learn how to use the TanStack table, which is an awesome library to be able to handle the table effortlessly in a more efficient way. So we're going to go deep into how we can be able to use TanStack table and get from its full potential to create this awesome table. But also it's going to help you to create more complex tables in other projects. So that's the application. And also we're going to use Zustand for the state management. We're going to use React and TypeScript. And also eventually we're going to use Shadcn. So also here at the top, as you can see, we're having the light and the dark mode. And let's talk about the table itself. So here we're having the search. So so the search is going to be handled by TanStack. And also here, as you can see, all of the columns are sortable. And notice that we're having this with another color, meaning that this is the table right now is sorted by the creation date. And if I click on the header, so I'm going to have this drop down to be able to sort choose the ascending option or the descending option. And as you can see, everything is working smoothly. So we can be able to sort by the category, by the status. So everything is working fine. So next we're having this multi filter. So we can be able, so when we click on the status dropdown, we're going to have these three statuses. So when I click on the publish, as you can see, I'm going to have only the products that has the status publish. And when I click on this filter element, I'm going to have it in here. And also I can keep filtering things down. When I click on the inactive, so I'm going to have only the products that has the status inactive and publish. And also as we are filtering, we can be able to sort the elements that we want. So thanks to TanStack table, so we can be able to do this effortlessly and to be able to save a lot of time while creating a good functioning table. And then we're having the categories. So here we're having all the categories and all of the drop downs. We're going to use Shadcn to be able to save time. So as I'm filtering with the publish and inactive, I want to even filter it down. I want to adjust the elements that has the electronic category. So as you can see, I'm going to have only the products that have the electronics category, and notice that it has been added in here. So I was highly inspired by this table, as you can see. So now we can be able to understand how this thing is working. So when in their official website, when I choose one of these stages, as you can see, we're going to have it in here, the elements that we are filtering by. And so instead of adding them in here, what I did, I added them at the bottom of the search input. And also, we can be able to clear the filter just from here. And if, for example, we want to clear all the filters, we can be able to just click on the reset and everything's going to be cleared for us. And finally, we're having, before I start talking about the pagination, so we're having this drop down to be able to copy or edit or delete. So I'm going to get into this. And finally, we're having the pagination. And that's the most interesting part because, man, if you want to do this yourself, it's going to take you a lot of time, a lot of headache to be able to handle all of that. But with TanStack, all I have to do, for example, if I choose 6 rows by page, as you can see, we're going to have 6 rows by page, but also the elements here are going to be updated depending on how many rows that we're having into the table. So if I choose 15, so as you can see, we're going to have just page 1 of 2, but also we are going to be able to the elements are going to be changing, or the buttons are going to be changing in here. Like for example, if I like show all the list, all the products in here, that's it's going to be disabled because we're having just one page. Like doing this yourself, it's going to take you immense amount of time and headaches. So that's why we're using TanStack to be able to create this. So now I can be able to move on to move to the next pages. And when I click on here, I'm going to go back to the first page. So that's an awesome thing. And this is what we're going to learn in this tutorial. So now I'm going to get into the most important thing, which is adding the product. So when I click on the button, so we're going to have this awesome dialog to be able to add the product. And we're going to use Zod and React Hook Form. So right now it's very important and mandatory to use these libraries to be able to handle the inputs. So when I click, for example, on add product, as you can see, everything's going to be handled for us. So let's add a new product. And also we're going to be creating this awesome uh, dialog to be able to choose the icon. So I'm gonna choose this icon. Here I'm going to type in some random stuff. I'm gonna choose another category. So for the status, let's choose inactive. The quantity it's gonna be 20. And also for the formatting, we're going to use another library to be able to do this for us. So when I click on add product, so we're going to have the loading phrase text, and we're going to have this toast notification. So notice right now the product has been added successfully because we are sorting by the creation date. So let's say, for example, if I want to copy it, just click on copy. And as you can see, the copy has been successful. And for example, if I want to modify this, all I have to do is to click on edit. So I'm going to have this, I'm going to have all the information loaded in our dialog. So I'm going to add something like this. So let's modify this, and let's modify the price like this, the category, and click edit product. So as you can see, all the element has been modified for this product. And finally, we can be able to delete the product. So when I click on the delete, so we're going to have this dialog again when I click on delete. So as you can see, the product has been deleted successfully. So we're going to learn all of these things. So if you are interested about learning this project, what's going to help you immensely before you can go to the complex stuff. So stick with me till the end of this video. Hi everyone, welcome back. So here we are in Visual Studio Code, and as you can see, we already created the project. So we're going to use Shadcn as well to be able to style our application and to make the process of styling the application and creating the components a lot easier. So I'm going to show you very quickly the process of installing the application. Probably you are already familiar with this. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the next.js page. And the first thing that you should do, make sure to install node.js into your system. So after that, we're going to use this terminal, this command line, and go back to your VS Code and open up your terminal and paste it in here. So I've already done this, so I'm not gonna do it again. So what we will see all of these questions and make sure to choose all the default answers. So after installing the project and installing all the dependencies, so it's gonna take a few minutes to be able to do so depending on your connection. After that, make sure to head to the Shadcn UI into the next.js. And after that, make sure to copy this and paste it again in your terminal. So make sure that you are inside the root folder of the project before you start installing the Shadcn package. So after that, you will so let me go back to the page. So you will have all of these questions. So make sure to use again the default options. So after that, so let me go back to the VS Code. So to know if the Shadcn has been installed successfully, you will see the component.json, and also you will see the lib folder with the utils.js. So here, Shadcn will be storing all the UI components inside this lib folder. And finally, if you go to the global.css, you will find this whole code in here. So after installing the project and installing the Shadcn, so I'm going to show you how to be able to install a custom font. So if we go back to our browser into the applications, as you can see, this font, the poppins font, has been applied successfully into the project. And so to be able to do so, what we're going to do first, we're going to go to the layout.jsx, and here we make sure to import the poppins object from this module. And after that, we're going to create the poppins variable, and we're going to use the poppins object, and inside of it, we're going to add all of these variables. After that, we're going to use the poppins.variable into the class name of the body tag. And next, we're going to go back to the global.css, and we need to create the poppin class in here into the global.css, so we can be able to use it as a utility class in any div that we want in our project. And this is what I did inside the page.jsx. As you can see, we're having the poppins into the class name. And if, for example, I get rid of it and I save the project and I go back, as you can see, we're back to the default font, which is, in my opinion, it doesn't look that good. But if I get back the poppins utility class and I save the folder, so let me save it again to be able to apply the modification. So as you can see, now it looks much better. And also I want to just show you this application that I created called Snippet Saver. And I think that it's going to be very handy to be able to save your snippets, and you don't have to use AI or memorize all the steps needed. So everything is going to be stored in one place and you can be able to access to them at any place. Like for example, for the case of the fonts, as you can see here, I'm saving all the steps needed to be able to apply the font or the pop-in font that I want. So if I close this, as you can see, I'm having all the snippets that are important for me and I use on a daily basis, so I don't have to save them into files and or memorize them even. So all I have to do is to store them into one place, and I can be able to go back to them at any time I want. And you have a search and a tag system to be able to actually uh, organize your snippets in a way to be able to find them very quickly. And also you can be able to find the whole project in my YouTube channel if you want to build this. So I'm sharing 5 hours uh, long project to be able to build this full stack project. So if you are interested, you can head down to the description below. You will find the link to be able to look at this project and why not to build it. So this is how we can be able to set up the foundation of our project. So after setting up our project, the next thing that I did, I created this header. So it is a pretty simple header. So we're having the icon and the name of the application. So I choose a random name and also add this section where we are having the possibility to change from light to dark mode. So we're going to use the package from Shadcn to be able to make this working. So the first thing that we should do, we should install some of the new components from Shadcn. So The first component that we should install is the drop down. So make sure to go to the Shadcn and go to the drop down component. And the first thing that you should do, make sure to install. So it's very simple to install the component that you want. All you have to do, copy this and go back to your terminal, to your project, and open up your terminal and paste it in here. So I've already done this. And also we need to install the card component. So as you can see here, we're using the card component. So the same thing, go back to the Shadcn and search for the card component and copy this and paste it in your terminal and install it in your project. And finally, we need a button. So we're going to use the button. So the same thing in here, search for the button component and go to the installation section, copy this command line and go back to your terminal and paste it in here. What you should have inside the components folder. So I was wrong about the idea that the components are inside the lib folder, but they are created inside the components folder. So you should have these three files, button, card, and the dropdown.tsx. Now I'm going to show you how to be able to add the package to be able to change from dark to light mode. And so thankfully we're having this inside Shadcn. So it's very simple to be able to set that up. So if we go here and search for the dark mode, and make sure to click next.js. So the first thing that you should do, make sure to install the package. And after that, we need to create this theme provider. So what you have to do is create the theme provider.tsx and paste the code in here. And one thing that you should do, something that probably didn't update, and make sure to add the theme for the theme provider props, make sure to get rid from this part in here. Otherwise, you will have uh, an issue with this. So to be able to fix this, all you have to do is to get rid from this part in here. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the layout.tsx. So this is the third step. Make sure to wrap the children part inside the theme provider. And finally, you can be able to install or to use the mode toggle functional component. So all you have to do, copy this code and here, so we're not going to create the mode toggle.tsx and the root inside the app folder just for organization purposes. So what I did, I created this app header folder. So we're having the app header.tsx to render the header that I just showed you. And here I added the mode toggle.tsx. So make sure to paste the code in here and everything is going to work uh, great. So because we already installed the components needed, the button and the drop down. So, and after that, another package that you should install is the React icons. So I'm a big fan of using React icons. So all you have to do is to type in npm install React icons. And you will have some warnings like this because we're using Next.js 15 and it uses React 19. So there are gonna be some conflict, I think. So don't worry. You can be able to use the icons from React icons package. So after that, so then we can be able to use the icons, and the icon that we're having in here is from React icons package. So after that, I'm going to show you like the header section. So this is the actual functional component. So we're having the app header. So let me close the terminal. So we're having the app logo, which is responsible for rendering the logo and the name or the random name of the application. So this is the JSX. So I'm not going to go through all the CSS properties. So I'm going to talk about the most important thing and how to be able to create this JSX. So what I did, I created this div so we can be able to inside of it add this icon. So as you can see, the icon is coming from the React icons package. And here we're having the name of the application, and those are the utility classes. And also make sure for the colors, so don't use your or hard code the color that you want. Make sure to add the text primary and the background primary, because we're going to use the theme colors from the Shadcn, and I'm going to show you how to be able to change or to get rid from the black color, the default black color, and choose whatever color that you want. So after creating this app logo functional component, so make sure to add it in here with the mode toggle, which is the component that we just created, the drop down for the dark and the light mode. And also make sure to add the justify between and item center so that these two elements are going to be positioned like this automatically. So, but before we move on, how we can be able to show this into the home page, I want to show you how to be able to change the colors. Probably you already know this, probably some of you don't know how to be able to do so. So go to the theme section, and here click on the customize, and you can be able to choose whatever color that you want. And also you can be able to choose the radius, the light or the dark mode. So I choose the red color and click on the copy button, and this window is going to pop up. Make sure to copy all of this code and go back to your project, specifically to the global.css, and make sure to get rid from all of this and paste the new code in here. So you will find, so I'm going to show you very quickly, like with another color, for example. So let's choose the orange color, and let's copy this whole code, and let's get rid of this, and I'm going to paste the new code. Let's go back to the actual application, and everything it's going to be set for you without having to hard code things in your code base, which can be time consuming. And this is how I've been working for the older projects. So when I discovered this, man, it was a time saver. So this is basically how we can be able to change the actual uh, colors. So finally, I'm going to show you how to be able to use these two components inside the home page. Uh, so let me go to the page.jsx inside the app folder. So as you can see, we're going to use the card. So the app header, it's going to be inside the card component from the Shadcn. And also we're adding some utility classes because we're going to add other components to be able, because we're going to use TanStack table to be able to use this table to show all the products as I showed you at the beginning of the project of this video. So this is basically how we can be able to create this header section. So now we're going to move on to showing the table first and the upper element of the table. So that's what we are going to work on next. And the next part that I added is this one. So here we're going to have the kind of the header of the table. So we're going to have just a products label and how many products that we're having. And here at this side, we're going to have the button to be able to add the new product. And notice here the background is slightly different. So we're going to use the use theme hook from the next themes package. And I'm going to show you all the logic to be able to do all of this if you want to change some of the colors. And so let's go back to the VS Code. And before I start talking about how we can be able to create this, so make sure to go to the layout.tsx and make sure to add the suppress hydration warning, because even though that I added some of the codes that I'm going to explain, I still having the hydration error. So now let's talk about the part that I just showed you. So the first thing that I did, I created this app table folder, and inside of it, I created the app table.tsx. So here we're going to use uh, again the card component from Shadcn. So this is the JSX. So if I um, if I delete this and I save and I go back, as you can see, so this is the portion that I'm talking about. And here I got rid from the border just to make sure that aesthetically the application is going to look good. So here we're using other components like card header, card title, just to make sure that everything's going to be organized, and also to follow the structure that Shadcn uses for the component, just to make sure that everything's going to look good. And here we're using the card header. So inside the card header, we're creating another div where we're going to put in two elements. We're going to use both the element to show the products and how many products, and we're going to put the button to be able to add the product. And also make sure to add the justify between, just to make sure that all of these two elements are going to be positioned like this automatically. So later on, we're going to get rid from the button, and we're going to use a dialog from Shadcn to be able to create our new product. But for now, just like let's keep things simple. And so when we move on to a complex level, then we are going to create this dialog. So here I added this card content where we're going to be adding our table, and we're going to use React table from TanStack to be able to create our table much more efficiently and easily. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go back to the page.js6. I'm going to show you some of the code here. I'm going to explain it very quickly. So here, as you noticed, we're using the isClient and the set isClient state because we're using next.js, and we want to make sure that only when we are going to render the JSX when we are in the client side. So this is what we are doing. Otherwise, if we don't do so, we're going to have an hydration issue. So basically what we're saying, if the isClient is still false, we're going to return null. So when the component is mounted, then we are going to set it as true. So when it is set it as true, then this it's going to be rendered as a cause of it. So here, just to be able to change the background, as I showed you, the background of the application. So we're going to use the theme from the use theme hook from this package that we installed from next.js, just to be able to know the state, whether it is dark or light. So here, if the theme is equal to dark, the background is going to be black. Otherwise, we're going to use this gray, and we're going to store the result inside the background color. And then we're going to use this inside the class name. So this is basically how we can be able to change the color manually if we want to, while using the next themes package to be able to use the dark and the light mode. And the next thing that I added are these UI elements, as you can see. So we're going to have the input to be able to search, and also we're going to have this part to be able to show the elements or the items that the user has choose to filter by. And these buttons are going to be for the drop down. So they are just like normal buttons, but we're gonna create the drop down by using the drop down menu component from Shadcn just to make things a lot easier to build. So let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to show you the process to be able to do so. So what I did, I created the products folder because we are going to add inside of it the the columns, and also we're going to add some code from TanStack React table to make the table. But for now, and I'm going to show you all the adjustments and the updates that we're going to do so to be able to show the actual table. But now I want to just show you how to be able to create these components. So inside the product table, so this is the actual JSX. So we're having the parent div, which is an empty div. And here inside this empty div, we're having two elements. So we're having the this element here that has the input. So that's the input. And also we're having, we put the two buttons inside one div. And notice here we're using justify between just to be able to position them like this. So that's why we did this hierarchy. And also we're having the filter area, which is going to be at the bottom of this whole element. So just to make things like organized to look at. So I put the code inside the filter area functional component. So here, so we need to have a parent div, and inside of it, we're going to have the div for the stages and the div for the category. So they are pretty much the same structure. So here we're having this div with all of these elements. So this parent div at the second layer of the whole div. So it is a dash border. So that's the element that I'm talking about. And here we're having the text status and the separator. And also we are putting inside this div the badges. So now they are just static, but when we are gonna work when we are gonna use state management, and by the way, we're gonna use Zustand for this and like make things logical to make sure that this is functionable, you will get the idea why we did so. And here for the category side, so we are doing the same thing. And also here we are adding the button for the reset button or to clear the filters. And of course, finally, we need to call this product table inside the card content inside the Apple table functional component. So this is basically how we can be able how we can be able to create the all of those elements. And the next thing that I added is the status dropdown. So when I click on status, we're going to have this beautiful dropdown, and we're going to use again Shadcn to be able to create this very quickly. So we're going to have published, inactive, and draft. So those are the stages that we're going to use inside our table. And at the bottom, we're going to have the clear filters to be able to clear the filters just from here without having to go to click on the reset button. So let's go back to the VS Code, and the first thing that I did, I created this drop downs folder. So inside of it, we're having the status drop down. So if we go all the way at the top, we're going to have all of the components needed from Shadcn. So make sure to install them. So all you have to do is go back to the Shadcn website and type in here the command that or the component that you want to install. So for example, the pop over. So here go to the installation part and copy this and go back to your terminal, open up your terminal and paste it in here. So if you're using Next.js 15, it uses React 19 and it has some issues with the npm, I think. So all you have to do is to whenever you are installing a package, so you're gonna have this question. So always use the force to be able to force the installation of the package. And as you can see, everything is working fine. So for the same thing for the UI components, make sure to install the command component and also make sure to install the separator and the checkbox. So those are the components that we're going to use for the filter dropdown. And here we're having some icons from React icons. So let's get into the code. So the first thing that we're doing, we are defining the structure of these stages. So we're having the value and the label as strings, and the icon, it's going to be a React node. And here we are creating our array that we're going to use to be able to render in our JSX as I showed you. So we're having the value, the first element published, the second one inactive, and the draft one. So for each element, we are storing the specific icon inside the icon property. So that's why we set the icon property as a React node. So now let's get into the core code of the functional component. So the first thing that we're doing here, we're creating our state open and set open state because we're going to use them here in the pop over functional component and the top level of the functional component to be able to open and close the actual drop down because the drop down uses the combination between the command component and the popover component. So you can, if you want to get deep into this, you can go back to the Shadcn website and look at this. So actually the popover, it's gonna trigger the opening of the command component, which is the actual drop down. So here we're using the popover trigger, and inside of it we're using a button. And inside the button we're having the icon and we're having the status word. So this is what we're having in here. And the variant, it's going to be secondary because we're using Shadcn. So we can have this gray, automatically this gray color. So let's go back again to the code. So here in the inside the pop over content, so we are adding the command component. So this is how we should use the command component as structured like this and as shown in the Shadcn website to make sure that everything is working well. So here we're going to use like inside the command group, the statuses area that we created, and we're going to map through each element on in them. And then to render each one, we're going to use the command item. So inside the command item, we're going to have the checkbox, we're going to have this div, and inside this div, we're having the icon and the status that label. So this is what we're having in here. So we're having the checkbox, the icon, and the actual label. And to be able to render the colors, so I'm going to talk about this function. So this is what this function does. So it's going to accept the status, which is a string, a type of string, and depending on of the status, so if it is the published, we're going to return this utility class uh, which we are going to use inside the class name. So the same thing will happen for the inactive and the draft. So we're going to get the status from the actual map function, and it's going to go inside the, so to speak, the functional component, and we're going to get the return, and based on the return, we're going to get the color. So at the bottom, as I showed you, we're having the filter button. So this is the component or the JSX of it. We're having the separator, and also we're having the button, the clear filters button with the variant ghost, and those are the utility classes that we're using. So this is basically how we can be able to create this drop down, and finally to be able to use it, go to the product table here and add it like in here, the status drop down. Make sure to add it in here. So the last thing that I need to add is the category. So it's gonna follow pretty much the same concept, the same pattern, but for the category, we're gonna have a bunch of categories, so it's gonna be slightly different. So when I click on the categories button, as you can see, we're going to have this beautiful drop down, and all of that is provided by Shadcn, which is a time saver, to be honest with you, because I've I've been doing this just manually, and it was taking me a lot of time, even hours, to be able to build that up. So now all we have to do is to know how it is working, and boom, you have this drop down ready to use. So here, as you can see, we're going to have all the categories that I choose for this application. And here we're having the search, so we can be able to search. So all of that is provided by Shadcn. And also at the bottom here, we're going to have the filter, clear filters buttons. And if I turn the dark mode on, as you can see, all the colors are going to fit perfectly because we're using Shadcn. It's going to make things work smoothly and a lot simpler. And mainly, I saved a lot of time by building this. So, or by using the Shadcn. Sorry. So let's go back to the VS Code and inside the dropdowns folder, I created the category dropdown. So again, we're going to use the same components that we used for the status dropdown functional component. And here, as you can see, we're having the array that we're using for our dropdown. So we're doing the same thing in here for the states, and we're adding them inside the popover. And here, what we're doing, so we're adding the command empty here, but also we're adding the command input. So as you can see, everything is provided by Shadcn, so I don't have to use any code whatsoever to make the search element functioning, which is kind of cool. And also, as I said, is a time saver. And here we're going to use the same principle as I showed you to be able to render each category. So here we're going to just use the checkbox and the div to be able to render each label. And finally here, as I did, as I showed you, the same thing I did for the status dropdown. So this is for the clear filters button. And finally, make sure to call it from the product table as like this, just to make sure that we can be able to see it into the browser. And next I added the table. So we're finally having our table. So this is the table of our product list. So we're gonna have 7 columns: name, the SKU, price, category, status, the quantity in stock, and the supplier. So as you can see, this is how this table is looking. So we're using, as I said, the TanStack table from TanStack. And also we're going to use the table component from Shadcn to be able to get this awesome table like this. And also when I turn the dark mode on, as you can see, everything is still looking good. So the place where I'm going to start from is Shadcn. So here they are providing for us a very uh, basic tutorial how we can be able to install our table by using TanStack alongside with the table component. So the first thing that you should do, you should install the table component from Shadcn, but also we need to install the TanStack uh, package. So make sure to copy all of these and paste them into your terminal. And also another thing that you will have, because I'm using React 19, because I'm using Next.js 15, it uses React 19. So there is probably an issue with npm, I think. So to be able to force the installation of the TanStack, make sure to add the force flag to be able to install actually the package. And as you can see, everything is working fine, even though that you are going to have this warning, uh, there's these warnings. So just ignore them. And as I showed you, everything is working well. So now we're gonna like so I'm going to show you how to be able to set things up. Uh, also by using this page, and also we're going to do the modifications needed to be able to actually get the results that we want in our application. So I'm going to start from here, the project structure. So here, I already created the products folder. So the first thing that we should do, so we're going to go to the column definition part, and we need to create our columns. So here they are giving us the payment example. So we're not going to do this. So we're going to use the same structure, but we're going to change our data, of course. So if we go to the products folder, we're having the colon.jsx. So this is the actual colon. So I'm going to explain everything here step by step. So we're going to start from the top. So here we are importing the colon div from TanStack, and these are just the icons that we're going to use. And so also the React node from React. And here we're going to create our product structure. So this is the structure of the product. We're having the name, the supplier, the SKU category. So we're going to use the union types. So these are the categories that we're going to use just for the sake of this application. The status, the quantity, the price. So both are going to be number type. And finally, the icon is going to be the icon type, which that we are getting from React icons. So here, as you can see, so this is the columns definition. So here, like if we compare to what in here, so here we're adding, so of course we need to use the properties that we are creating inside the products uh, array. So here we're using the accessory key, which is the name, and the header. It needs to be the same property that. So basically, so this is what we're gonna show inside the table. So here we're adding the cell property. So the reason why we did so, because as I showed you, we're having the icon. And to be able to show the icon or to do any modification in each row, then you can be able to use the cell property, which is a function, and it's going to have the row argument. So the row argument is going to give us access to each row. So here we're gonna get access to the icon property, but also we're gonna get access to the name. And this function returns a GSX. So here we're going to add these tags. So here we're gonna have the parent div, and inside of it we're gonna have the icon. So the icon, it's gonna be this variable. And here, as you can see, we're adding it inside this div just to be able to create this rectangle like this. And also for the colors, make sure to add the background primary just to make sure that it's going to get the color from the Shadcn configuration that we're using inside the global.css. And we're having the name inside the span that we are getting from the row.original.name. So this is basically how we can be able to modify each row, and it's pretty easy and um, very easy and effective. So next we're having this, so we're not going to do anything for it. The price, the only thing that we did is we added the toFixed function just to make sure that if we're having some numbers after the dot, so we want to just have two numbers. And here we're having the category, the status. By the way, the status, we're going to have a lot of things to do because here, as you can see, we need to show the icons and also we need to change the colors. So basically, we're going to use the cell property, which is a function that we did for the same thing that we did for the name. So here we're going to extract status from each row. So we're going to create these two variables because we're going to use a switch. um, so we're going to use a switch, and based on the status, so if it is published, we are going to store these utility classes inside the color class. And also we're going to store the actual icon inside the icon variable. So the same for the draft, the same for the inactive. And here, as I showed you, the cell function is going to return the GSX, so you can be able to render it inside our table. So here we're going to use this span, which has all of these utility classes. And notice here, we're using the backticks and the curly braces. So to make sure that this color class that we are getting from the switch, it's going to work. So if it is published, so we're going to have these colors. And this is what we're having in our table. So the same for the draft and the same for the inactive. So we're having different colors and different icons. So that's why we did use the switch statement. So here we're going to use the icon that we stored inside the icon variable. So this is what we're doing because it is actually a React node. So that's why we are going to use it directly inside our GSX, inside the curly braces. And finally, we're having the stages, which is the stages variable that we are getting from the row that original. So, and basically for the other columns, so we're not going to do anything for them. So this is basically the code for the columns.jsx. Now I want to show you the product data. So we need some data, of course. So I created this array. So that's what we're going to use just temporarily, just to make sure that to know how things are looking inside our table. And of course, we need to use the products type that we created inside the columns.jsx. So that's why what we're doing, we're importing it from the columns.jsx file. And finally, I'm going to go to the product table. So here, the product table, so this is where we are going to render or the final output to be able to get all the information that I showed you in our table. So let me go back to the actual page. And this is what they are doing to be able to render the table. So they are importing all of these objects from the TanStack package, and also they are importing this from the Shadcn. And this is what I did at the top in here. So I'm importing them like this, and also I'm creating this interface. I'm adding this interface and this is what they're doing. And also I'm adding, because I've already created our product table functional component. So all I have to do is to add these and also these prompts inside the product table. So this is what I did. And also make sure to add the custom hook, use React table from TanStack. And this is what I already did. So this is what they are showing in the actual tutorial. And finally, all you have to do is to copy this whole code and paste it in wherever you want to render the table. So here I already added this comment just to know where I'm going to paste this table. So this is the table, so you don't have to modify anything in this GSX. So everything is going to be carried by TanStack package for you. So, and finally, we're going to go to the app table and we need to add the data because as I showed you inside the product table, it has props. So it has the data and the columns. So we're going to use the products area that I just showed you inside the product data in the data prop and the columns. We're going to import it from the products. We're going to import it from the columns.tsx, and here we are using the product table. So this is basically how we can be able to create this basic table, and it's pretty easy. And also it is effective to use, and we're having a great result with this. So now we're having our table. We need to add other functionalities like sorting, pagination, and searching. So this is what we are going to do next in this project. And before we move on to the pagination and sorting and filtering, one element that I added is the button to be able to add the action to the actual product. So when I click on here, so we're going to have this drop down to whether to copy or edit or delete the product that we want. So to be able to do this, what we're going to do inside the column.tsx, so we're going to add a new object, and the ID is going to be actions, and also we're going to have the cell property, which is a function. So, and also we're going to return this drop down, and this drop down, and I'm going to show you this for a second. It's going to accept the actual row, so you can work with it inside the drop down. So if we go to the product dropdown, as you can see, we're having another or a new file product dropdown.jsx. I don't want to add it inside the column.jsx just to make sure that this file is gonna stay clean. Because if we go back to the data table page, so here this is what they're showing to be able to add the action. So here we're adding the dropdown inside the cell function. So just to make things a bit organized, I added inside another file, which is this one, and I called it inside or from the column.tsx. So this is the actual dropdown because I made some modifications just to have this dropdown like this. So here we are importing all the necessary objects to be able to make this drop down working. So here, as you can see in the functional components, so this is the row prop, which is going to be this type. And here I'm just logging out the row. And here I'm creating the menu items array, which it's going to have the copy, the edit, and the delete. So all of them, they're going to be inside the object. And then we're going to return our dropdown, and we're going to use the dropdown menu component from Shadcn. So this is the actual structure of it. So we're going to have this part to be able to trigger the dropdown. And also inside the dropdown menu content, we're going to use the menu items array, and we're going to loop through each object to be able to show each element. So if the item, so here we're doing this for the separator, and also, so if the item that separator is true, we're gonna show the drop down menu separator. Otherwise, we're gonna show the drop menu items where we're going to put inside of it all the elements that we're having inside the array. So this is basically how we can be able to create a dropdown. So it's pretty straightforward. And this is how we can be able to create the action dropdown for each product. So at the bottom of our table, as you can see, I added the pagination. So I added the select component, so you can be able to select how many rows that we want to see in the table. So as you can see, when we choose 8, so we're going to have 8, um, 8 rows. And also notice when I change, like I want just to show the 4 rows, as you can see, also the pages are gonna change, but also the buttons. So here I can go to the next button or the next page, and if I want to go back to the first page, I can click on here. And if, for example, I show all the pages, so let me, all the rows, sorry. So as you can see, we're going to have page 1 of 1, and the buttons are going to be disabled automatically, which makes sense. And then here I just added the products, or I duplicated them just to see or to show how things are working. And thanks to the TanStack library, everything is handled for us without having to get into the logic to be able to create this, which can be very complicated. So let's go back to the VS Code, but first I want to just show you the pagination section. So also here they are providing for us the steps needed to be able to do the pagination. And also we're gonna add some of the things that they are not mentioning just to be able to create and customize our pagination. So let's go back to our code and so let me close all of these tabs and we're gonna start from the product table. So here we added this pagination state with the set pagination state. So it's going to have the page index and the page size. So I set it to 8 by default. And then we're going to add the on pagination change, which is going to be linked to the set pagination. And also we're going to add the get pagination row model. So everything here inside the use React table, and this it's going to be imported, from the TanStack library. So once we did this, the next thing that I'm going to show you is the actual div for the pagination. So before I start talking about the pagination selection, which is a component that uses the select component UI from Shadcn, so I want to talk about this part. So this part are all the buttons for moving for going to the next page or the previous page, or if we want to go to the last page or the first page. So these are the actual JSX. So we're going to have the to be able to show the pages or the current page. So we're going to use the pagination dot page index and we're going to add a one. And to be able to get the numbers of pages, so we're going to just use the get page count from the table object. And inside this div, we're going to have all the buttons to be able to render the previous or the first page and the other buttons like the next page or the last page button. And of course, we're going to use the onClick event listener. And all you have to do is just use the table that set page index. So we don't have to write any code. So everything's going to be handled by TanStack library. So and that's the remaining code of the buttons. So for the previous page, we're going to use the previous page function. For the next page button, we're going to use the next page, and it's going to be only disabled if this uh, is null. And the last page button, we're going to use the table that set page index, and in it we're going to add the table that get page count minus one. And this is going to be only disabled if this is null. And also we're using these are the icons, the arrow icons that we're using here in each button from the React icons. So now I'm going to move on to this part, which is this functional component. So the pagination selection. So it's going to have two props, the pagination and the set pagination that we created them at the top of our functional component. So here, as you can see, I added them inside this file. So we're going to import the select component from Shadcn. So you're going to make sure that you already installed this. So that's the select functional component from the Shadcn UI. And here we are gonna add the prompts. And this is the actual div of it. So we're gonna have the select object or select component. So the value it's gonna be the pagination that page size and the on value change. So we're gonna use the set pagination. And here we're gonna use the select trigger. So the value it's gonna be the page size, and we're going to convert it to string because this is a number by default. And here we're just creating an array just to be able to show all the elements in our select dropdown. So this is basically how we can be able to create our pagination. So it's pretty simple. So it's going to take you a while just to be able to get used to this and how to be able to use the library. But like in comparison, if you want to build this, that's going to take you a lot of time and it's going to make the code a much more complex. So thanks to the TanStack table that is going to be able to handle this automatically for us. The only thing that we should do is to be able to learn how to use it. And next I added the sorting functionality. So here, when I click on the header, we're gonna have this drop down to be able to sort by ascending or descending. So when I click on descending, as you can see, the whole table it's gonna be sorted based on this the descending sorting and the name column. So as you can see, everything is working fine, but I want to just show you the logic that I did before we can replicate this for the other columns. So let's go back to the VS Code and the file where we're gonna be working on only in the column.tsx. So we don't have to touch the table in here, which is this part. So all you have to do is to modify the columns array. So this is what you are going to do here. So instead of using a simple string and the header property, so this is what we did for the other objects. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn it into a function. And this function, it's going to have the instance of a column as a parameter. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to see if the column is sorted because we're going to use this inside this journey operator so we can be able to store the appropriate icon depending on whether the column is sorted or not. So if it is sorted, if the is sorted is equal to ascend, then we are going to use this icon. Otherwise, we're gonna, if the is sorted is descending and we're gonna see if it is true. So if it is true, we're gonna use this icon. Otherwise, if there is no sorting at all, then we're gonna use the arrow up and down column just to show you like if I reload the page. So because it's not sorted yet, so we're gonna have the up and down color. And also it's going to be beneficial when we are going to be adding the sorting algorithm or functionality to other elements. So when this is sorted automatically, this is going to be unsorted and we're going to have these icons back. So I was hugely inspired by this component inside the Shadcn. So just to show you how things are working, so we're going to have the same outcome. Because this is sorted, and if I sort the status column, so as you can see, this is going to be sorted and this is going to be unsorted, and we're going to have back the up and down arrow icon. So we're going to have the similar outcome. But now I want to just show you how we can be able to create the sorting for what column before we move on to the other columns. So here we're having the drop down that when we click on the header, where it's going to have opened up for us. So we're going to have, of course, we're going to use the drop down UI component from Shadcn. So this is going to be the trigger, which is the button. So the button is going to have the name and the sorting icon, which is this object in here. And here we're having inside the drop-down menu contents, we're having two menu items. We're having this one for the ascending and this one for the descending. And we're having the on-click event listener so you can be able to trigger the sorting. So all you have to do is to use the column parameter and we're going to use the toggle sorting function from the TanStack library and it's going to do everything for us. How cool is that, man? So this is time saving. So you don't have to create the sorting logic and also to have to come up with other ideas, and so everything is handled for you. So here, as you can see, so this is the actual path or pattern that we're going to use for sorting. So for the other elements, what we're going to do, we are going to create a drop-down functional component that is reusable so we can be able to call it into the headers of the other objects. So this is what I'm going to do, and I'll be back to explain everything step by step. So now, as you can see, I made all the other columns sortable. Like right now, this table is sorted by status. So for example, if I sort by category like this, as you can see, we're going to have all the elements are sorted by electronics successfully. Notice that the status right now is unsorted. And also if we can be able to sort by the price successfully, so everything is handled by TanStack. So it is an awesome thing to have to be able to create all of that so easily. So let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to show you what I did. So here what I did first, I created this sortable header. So it's going to be a reusable component that we're going to use across all the headers of our columns array. So here it's going to accept the column, the parameter column, and also it's going to accept the label. So here what we're going to change only the label, and also we are going to change the area label inside the button functional component. So and everything is going to stay the same. So however though, what's going to be different is inside the headers property. So here it's going to be an arrow function which gonna where we're gonna call the sortable header, and we're going to pass in the colon as a prompt, and also we're going to use the label in here because as I showed you, this functional component accepts two props, the colon and the label. And we're going to keep doing this for the same headers, as you can see. So this is the right way to do so. So you don't have to copy and paste and duplicate the functional component. All we have to do, create one component and reuse it across all the headers into the columns area. So as you can see, everything is working perfectly as expected. So now we are going to go to the filtering part, and we're going to start by searching. So here, as you can see, our searching is working well. So as I'm typing, we're going to have the results right away. And if there is no results found, we're going to have the no results text. So everything is handled again by TanStack library. So I'm going to show you how to be able to do this. So now inside the product table.tsx, so we need to add the colon filter state, and also we need to add the get filtered row model. So again, you can find this. So this is their official their official doc. So this is where I'm getting the information from. So as you can see, we're adding the at the top, we're adding the column filter state and the get filtered row model. And the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to add these. So we're going to add the column filters state, which is an array, and then we're going to add the on column filter change, the get filtered row model, and also inside the state object, we're going to add the column filter. So this is what I did at the bottom in here in our functional component. So here, as you can see, I added the array first, and also I added inside the state the column filters, and also I added the on column filters change, where it's going to be linked to the set column filter, and also I added the get filtered row model. And here inside the input, because we've already created our input, so all I had to do is to add the value and also the unchanged event listener. So what I did, I just took them from this code and I paste them in here. And as you can see right now, we're having functionable uh, search search functionality for the names of our products. So the next thing that I worked on is the ability to be able to filter by the status. So when I click on the publish, so we're going to have only the elements that has the publish, the status as published. When I click on the inactive, right now we're having the elements that have both the status published and inactive. And when I click on the clear filter, as you can see, all the filters are going to be cleared from the drop down. So to be honest with you, that took me quite a while because it took me some time to be able to understand how it is working, and also thankfully that I used the AI and basically I use Claude just to be able to get the solution from this problem. So I'm not a guru, I'm just learning like you, and I'm trying to figure things out to be able to know how this cool library is working so I can be able to use it in more advanced and complex projects. So, and also as you can see, open up the TanStack table, their docs, and to be honest with you, they are pretty awful. So I don't use this. I couldn't understand how they are they are, explaining this. So let's go back to our code and I'm going to show you how to be able to create this, how to be able to create custom filters inside the React table. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to add this filter function, which I think it is an interface. So it is an interface. And here at the bottom, we are going to create this function, the multi-selected filter. Again, that's something that was provided for me by Claude. So it is a wonderful model especially for coding, and I think it is far better than ChatGPT. So, but the downside, it is not free, so you need to pay for it. I'm just using the free version. So for me, it's more than enough to be able to solve some of the issues that I'm encounter while building projects. So anyway, let's go back to our code. And here what I'm doing, and I'm creating this selected status array. So this is where we're going to be storing all the elements that we are checking. So as you can see, this state is going to be a string of an array. And also another thing that I didn't mention, so since we created this function, if we go all the way at the bottom, we need to use this filter function. So this is a property, built-in property from TanStack inside this hook, and we are going to use this custom property and we're going to link it to the function. So I think basically this is what is returning all the elements inside the table, all the rows inside the table that are matching the filters. And here we are gonna, so before I start talking about this use effect hook and what it does, I'm gonna talk about how we are gonna use these two states. So these two states are gonna be used inside the status drop down. So as you can see, we're having these two prompts. So now I'm going to go to the status drop down, and this is the logic that we're building to be able to save the elements that we checked inside the arrays. So here, what we're going to do some of the changes um, inside the GSX. So here we are going to add this on-click event listener. So every time that we click on the command item, so since the checkbox is inside the command item, if we don't do this, we can't be able to get access to the checkbox. So that's why we added the on-click event listener to be able to handle the checkbox stage function. And we're going to pass inside of it the status that value. And also inside the checkbox, so the checked value, it's going to be linked to the element, whether that it is inside the selected status array or not. And also when we click on the on the checkbox, so also this is going to be triggered. And I think that whether we click in here or in here, so now we need to click on the checkbox. So we did this just because the command item is getting on the way of the checkbox to be able to get clicked. So this is why we did so. So let's go back. So let's go at the top, and I'm going to explain very quickly the function to be able to handle the checkbox change. So this is where we are, how we are going to be able to store the elements that we clicked on and to avoid any duplicates inside this array. And finally, we're having the function to be able to clear all the filters. All you have to do is to set the selected statuses as an empty array. And now let's go back to the product table, and I'm going to try to explain what this use effect took. So it's going to be dependent upon the selected status. So meaning that every time that this changes, this whole code, it's going to be triggered, and we're going to update the set colon filters, which we created in here. And we already created when we started working with the search inside the input. So this is basically how we can be able to do this. So honestly, that's the first time that I've been able to learn this, and if I couldn't be able to explain it much better, so that's what I could do. So, but the most important thing here, we're having a working filter for the dropdown. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to work on the categories. So basically, we're going to use the same pattern to be able to add the filter whenever we click in on these categories. And next, we're going to update this whole component dependent on the elements that we are filtering by. And now we can be able to filter by categories successfully. So when I open up the filter dropdown and I click on electronics, as you can see, we're going to have only the products that have the electronics as a category. So let's click again on another one just to filter things down a bit. So as you can see, everything is working well. So we're going to have only the products that have the three categories. And notice here, we're having this parts functionable. So if I uncheck the books category, so we're going to have the elements that we are filtered by only uh, for the category rectangle. And also, we can be able to filter again with the status alongside with the category. So everything is working fine. Like I want for this, I want to just filter by draft. So if I click on draft, as you can see, we're going to have only the elements that have the uh, the um, the items or the categories, electronics and furniture, and for the status, it's going to be draft. So as you can see, everything is working well, and also we can be able to do the search while we are filtering the elements in here. As you can see, the search is going to only work for the elements that we are filtering, that we're using the filters. And if I click on the reset, so as you can see, like the elements are going to be unchecked. The same thing for the categories. So as you can see, everything is working fine. So we finally achieved the table part. So we're having all the functionalities, the sorting, the filtering, and also we did a little bit of advanced filtering because we're using the multi-selection filtering, which is something that it's not in the Shadcn documentation. So let's go back to the VS Code and we're going to start from the categories drop down. So here, but before, I want to show you the array. Uh, so we're gonna follow the same pattern that we did for the statuses. So we need to create the selected categories area where we're gonna be storing the elements that we are checking, the categories that we are checking. And also I did some changes and updates inside the use effects, so I'm gonna get into this later on. But now let's focus on this. And here we're gonna take those elements and we're gonna put them down inside the pass them down, sorry, inside the categories drop down. So here we're gonna use the same thing. So I'm just using some console logs just to see because I had an issue. And so here we're going to use the same thing. So we're going to use the on-click event listener inside the checkbox. And also we're going to use the function, the handle checkbox function. And the checked value, it's going to be dependent whether the category that value is inside the selected categories area. And inside the handle checkbox functional component. So we're gonna do the same thing. The only thing that is different here is the set selected categories, and instead of using the status, so we're using the category. So it's just a changing of the word. Uh, so after doing this, what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back to the product table that TSX. And here we need to do some updates inside this use effect since we're going to use two elements to be able to filter. We're using the status and we're using the categories. So this is the actual code that we're going to do to be able to filter things. And finally, we're going to go back to the colon.tsx, and also we need to add the multi-select inside this uh, filter fn property, just to make sure that what we're having inside the use effect hook that we created here, it's going to work as well for the category um, column. And finally, what we're going to do, we are going to pass down inside the filter area functional component, which is responsible for this part in here, just to be able to change the elements and to make things interactive with what we are clicking on the drop downs. So since this filter area is outside of this product table functional component. So we need to pass all of these elements inside this functional component. So it's very simple. So here for the status, so we're going to use the length of the area. So if it is superior than 0, then we can be able to actually go to this block. So if we don't select anything, it means that it's not going to be shown. So that's why I did this statement. So here also what I'm doing, I'm creating this turning operator as well, just to make sure that if the status or the statuses that we are checking are if they are more than 3, then the only thing that we're going to show is this batch tag. Otherwise, if it is less than 3, then we're gonna show the elements that we are checking, and we're gonna use the map function since these elements are stored inside the selected statuses area. And the same thing that I did for the category. So it is following the same pattern. The only thing that is going to be changing here are the selected categories area. And finally, at the bottom, so the button to be able to reset the filters, it's going to be dependent about this condition. So we're saying only show this button if one of these two areas are not empty. And when we click on the button, so we are going to empty them so we can be able to get to remove the filters. So as you can see, when I click on the reset, all the filters are removed, and basically nothing's gonna be shown. And the same thing that we're gonna click on clear filters, everything it's going to be removed. So it is the same thing that it is used inside the Shadcn. So I was wondering how they created this, and basically, so I have some issues in my connection. So this is how it is working. So everything is working well. So the next step that we're gonna start working on is the adding the legion and the modifying the products. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to create a new window so you can be able to so that the user can be able to add some inputs to create the product. So after we completed our table, the next thing that I added is this window to be able to add the new product. So when I click on add product, so we're going to have this beautiful dialog to be able to add the product. So we're going to have all what we need to be able to add the product. So we're having the product's name along with the this window to be able to select the icon that we're going to build from scratch. And also we're going to use, of course, Shadcn UI, the SQ input, the supplier name, and also the products category, and also the status. It's going to be in a form of tabs, and the quantity and the price. And also we added beforehand the red messages because we are going to use React hook form library to be able to track the inputs, but also to be able to track the errors effortlessly along with the Zod library, of course. So now that it's just the UI, so I want to show you how to be able to create this in a cleaner way. So the first thing that I did, so let me close all of these tabs, and I'm going to show you everything step by step, the best of my ability. And we're going to start by creating this product dialog. So this product dialog is going to have all of these files. So this is going to be, of course, inside the app table. So just for organization purposes. So we're going to have our main file, which is the product table. So we're going to use the dialog UI, as you can see. And the button, so we're going to have the add product button, which is this one. So it's going to trigger the opening of the dialog. Then we're going to have the dialog content. So just to make sure to follow the structure that is provided by Shadcn, so you can to make the most out of the UI component. And you don't have to do things manually to save up some time, of course. And here we're having the dialog content, and underneath we're having the dialog header. So inside the dialog header, we're having the dialog title and the description. And here we're having all the input elements. So inside this div, we're having all the input elements, and this is how we organize them. So instead of using the components or all the inputs inside one file, so what I did, I created another folder called components, and I placed each input inside the file just to make sure that our code is organized. So inside this div, which wrap all of the components, so we're going to have these two elements inside one div, and we're going to use the grid and the grid column. Then we're going to have the supplier and the product category that's going to be in one div, and these three elements are going to be in one div. So just to make sure that we're going to have all of these inputs organized this way in our UI. And also another thing that you may notice inside the class name, so we're using a bunch of utility classes just to make sure that all of these elements are going to be responsive and don't and not having all the elements like get mingled each between each other. So we're using the media query. So when we reach this level of pixels, so the grid column is going to be 2. And when we reach the 640 pixel, the grid column is going to be 1. And here, of course, the actual components. I'm going to show you each component. And finally, in the dialog footer, we're going to add this button inside the dialog close, which is provided by Shadcn. Um, and also, we're going to have the button to be able to add a new product. So here are the components. So I'm going to start with the, so let's start with the product name. So the product name has two elements. We're having the input. So by the way, this is the structure of the product in name functional components. So it is pretty simple. There is nothing fancy with it. So we're having the label, the input, and we're having another functional component, which is the window that I showed you to be able to select an icon. And finally, here we're having the error. So if we go to the icon selector, so it is saved in another file. So here we're having a bunch of code in here because I made it in a way to be able to use it in any project because I've been using a lot of icons, so I don't have to create this component over and over again, and also just to make things a lot easier. So here, what I did, I saved it uh, in the in this application that I showed you at the beginning of this video, and also I created the video to show you how to be able to create this application. So as you can see, the code I saved it in here so I can be able to access to it whenever I want and wherever uh, um, I am. So it's not going to be a problem. So let's go back to the VS Code. So I'm gonna go through this very quickly. So here we're defining the types that we're gonna use, and here we're importing the icons that we're gonna use. So the icons are gonna be stored inside this file. So as you can see, we're having a lot of icons, and for each icon, it's going to have the ID, the icon, which is a React node type, and also the isSelected property. So here, and also we're defining the icon context type because we're going to use here in this code the context API. And so that's the icon provider. And here we're creating some states. And here we are using the update selected icon, um, which is going to trigger this on update icon, which is a callback function. So all of this code it's going to be provided for free. So don't worry about it. So I'm going to provide the link down below to be able to access to the whole project, and then you can be able to study this code. And here we are returning this JSX, which is a dialog, to be able to see the so let me go back to the UI so I can be able to see all of these elements. So we're having the so let's go back to the VS Code, and I'm going to show you the other components. So I'm going to show you the most important ones, which are the status and how we did this, the how we use the tabs UI. So let's go to the status. So the first thing that you should do, make sure that you've already installed the tabs component from Shadcn. So all you have to do is to go to the Shadcn and go to the tabs, select the tabs component and install the component so you can be able to use it. And this is how we used the actual component. So we created the selected tab state, and it's going to have the published by default. And here we're having the label, and also we're having the tabs tag. And here we're going to use the tab list so we can be able to use the all the elements here. And for each tab list, it's going to have the tabs triggered with the icon and the name. So also we're going to do the same thing for the inactive and for the draft tab. So, so let me close all of these things. And here we're having, for example, the product category. So we're going to use the select input, and also we're going to use the category array. And here, just adding this to make sure that we're not going to have the hydration problem. And here we're returning the select component. So we're using the categories array to be able to show all the elements inside the array inside the select UI component. So, and for the other elements, so we're having the supplier, so we're just using the input, the SQ, also the same thing, the quantity, the same thing. So, and the price here, we're using this numeric format. So here we're using this React number format library. So I want to show you how it is working. So we're going to have the formatting automatically. And so I'm going to open up again Google and type in React format npm. So make sure to install this package so you can be able to use it this way. So here we're going to import the numeric format from the library, and the custom input, it's going to be the input from the UI. So the value is going to be by default 0, and it's going to do everything for us for the formatting without having to create the functions needed, and it's going to do it better than us and as beginners. So this is basically how we can be able to create our UI very effortlessly. So the next step that we need to do, we need to make sure that this UI is alive. And the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to start setting up our Zod schema and then using the React form library for the validation. So now we set the validation for our form, and I'm going to show you, like for example, if we click on the form and everything is still empty. So here we're going to have all the errors and everything is going to be tracked automatically because we're going to use React form hook library. And as soon as I type in stuff, as you can see, the errors are going to be gone. So I'm just typing random stuff here. And also I'm going to select a new icon and I'm going to change the status. And also notice here, if the quantity is empty, we're going to have the error. And if we add something like this, because it expects the number inside the input, so the same for the price. So here we can't type in any uh, character. So, and as when I click on the product, so here we're not going to have any error, but if we log things out, so let me log things out just to show you the object that we're going to have. So this is the object that follows the product type that we created. So we can be able to safely add it into our table. So as you can see, we're having all the properties needed, and we saved all the data from this form successfully inside this object. So I did a lot of things to make this work. So the first thing that you should do, you should install npm install Zod. So I'm gonna type in Zod npm. So this is the install npm install Zod, and also we're having React hook form. So these are popular libraries that you can use. So this is the install of it. So eventually you need to type them in your terminal to be able to install them. So once you've done this, another thing that I want to mention is the product type. So the product type, if you remember, I was using the icon type from React icons. So here I'm using the icon property as a React node just to be able to work easily with the icons that I saved inside the icon selector. And talking about the icon selector, another modification that I did just to be able to get access to the icon that we selected. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this callback function to be able to lift up the selected icon to its parent component. So where is it? The parent component is in the product name. So this is where we are using the icon selector. And as you can see, we're going to use this callback function to be able to access to the selected icon. And this selected icon by itself are going to be lifted up to its parent component, which is the product dialog. So as you can see here inside the GSX here, the product name. So we're using this callback function to be able to access to the icon, and we are going to store it inside the set selected icon, which is these two states. So for the other codes, I'm going to explain what it is. So I'm going to start from the top. So here we are going to import the C object from that library, and this is our schema. So this is our whole schema for our form. So it is a pretty large schema. So we're having the product name, the SKU, the supplier, the quantity, the price. And this, to be honest with you, like we are uh, we are so happy and that we are existing in this time to access to the AI because without it, I couldn't be able to fix this problem because I had some problems because I'm using React number format library, so I need to link it with the ZOD. So I had to figure this out. So thankfully, we're having AI for this. So this is our schema. And also what we're going to do, we are going to call or use these object, the use form, which is a custom hook and the form provider. So the reason why we are going to use a form provider, if we go a little bit down into the GSX, because it is the context API, since we are going to use external functional components, and instead of using prompts, we're going to use this form provider so that other functional component or sub-functional components can be able to access to the elements inside the methods object. So this is why we used, so we don't have to create our context API, so it is provided by the library, so it's a time saver for us. And then another thing that I added is this form tag. So we're going to wrap all these sub-functional components, which are the inputs inside this form. And at the top, it's going to be wrapped with the form provider. So this is basically how we did this. And also make sure to add the so here down inside this I created this handle reset function. So when we close the window or the form, all the inputs are going to be reset automatically. And this I added it inside the onClick event listener of the dialog close. So after doing this, and also for the other states, I'm gonna explain them, but now I'm gonna talk about the actual inputs inside each functional component. So how we can be able to sync with the schema that we created and the actual input. Here what we're going to do, we're going to use to be able to consume the context, which is the form provider, we're going to use the use form context. So the use form context is going to allow us to access to all the states in the parent component. So without having to use prompts, as I said. So here we're going to use the register. So register is an object that's going to allow us to access to the keys for all the schema for the schema that we created. So here we're going to use it this way to be able to establish this connection that I talked about. And here we are going to just use this to be able to show the appropriate error that we created up here inside our schema. So we don't have to create the code to be able to handle the errors by ourselves, which is going to make our code a lot cleaner by using these two awesome libraries. And let's go to the quantity. So the quantity, it's going to be the same thing as you can see, but make sure to add the value as a number inside along with the register object for the SQ. So it's going to be the same thing, nothing complex. And for the supplier, it's going to be the same thing. So I left the three inputs or three elements that I had to do some changes. So here inside the status, so the status, it's going to be uh, 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 tabs. So here, as you can see, instead of using what I did, uh, the states inside the functional component, we're going to use them as a prompt. So the state is going to be in the parent component. And also make sure to add inside the set selected tab this to be able to only access to the status property inside the category by using this inside the set state action. And if we go to our parent component and in our JSX, so here inside the status, as you can see, so we are going to pass down the those states inside the inside the status functional component. And for our states here, these are the state, the selected tab, which gonna be this type. So we are actually using the type product and to be able to only access to the property of the status. So we're gonna use the status key inside the brackets. And here, this is gonna be the default value. So that's the power of TypeScript. So it's gonna allow you to be able to access safely to your to interact with our code safely and avoid having bugs later on. And also another thing that I did, and I talked about very quickly, the selected icon to be able to save the icon that we clicked on. And also another thing that we did for the same thing for the selected tab is the selected category. So we lifted up the selected category from the sub functional components inside the parent component. And here at the GSX, so we're going to pass them down inside the product category. So here nothing's gonna change except this on the on value change. So here what we're going to do, we are going to add this function. So the value, it's going to be the parameter. And here we're going to assert the value as the types inside the category. So, and also do the same thing inside the status. So here, instead of using directly the set selected tab, because this on value change expects a string, but here we are having this type that has this union types, and the only way to fix this in TypeScript, we're going to use the as keyword to be able to assert the value as one of the elements inside the status property. And this is basically how we can be able to create all of this. This even it seems simple because it is a form, but as you can see, there are a lot of things going on to be able to actually get the information and avoid having any problems when something that is not valid in our form. And finally, here inside the onSubmit function, all what I'm doing, I'm logging out the new product here. So here safely we can be able to access to the product that we want to add. And also I added this nano ID, which is a library that you can install npm install nano ID. That's going to generate some random IDs for you, and we're going to store it inside the ID property. And here we can be able to add the code to be able to add the new product in our table very safely. So I hope that I explained this as much as I could. I know it was a little bit complicated, but again, guys, if you wanna be a good coder or programmer, you need to practice all of this. Even for myself, there are a lot of things that I need to do, a lot of practice to be able to digest all of this knowledge. So after creating the validation process and also we created our project or our object, product object, sorry, to be able to add it in the table. So before that, we need a state management. And what we're going to use for our case or for our project, we're going to use Zustand to be able to manage the state and update the whole table whenever we are adding the product object into the table. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to install it. So the only thing that you can do is copy this and go back to your VS Code and paste it in here to be able to install it. So after installing the package, what we're gonna do a minor modification in our product interface or type. So if we go back to our table, as you can see, I added the created at colon, something that I forgot to add just because when you are gonna add the product, uh, because we're using the sorting tools, so we need in a way to be able to be at the top. So that's why I sorted it like by created at. So if we go back in here in our code, so what we need to do, we need to go to the colons.tsx, and here we are going to add the created at property with the date type inside the product type. And also another thing that we need to do, we need to go to the product dialog in here inside the onSubmit function. We need to add the created at property in here in our new product object. And also inside the colon.tsx to be able to add the colon. So what I did, I added the object in here with the accessory key, the created add. So make sure to add it the same with the uppercase A, like the same that we used inside the property, the product type. So after doing this, we need to do some formatting. So to be able to do the formatting, what we're going to do, we're going to use the cell property, which is a function. And here we're going to get the value, and we're going to use the date.local to local date string to be able to convert it from the Unix format to this string format. So after doing this, what we're going to do, we're going to create our use product store, which is a custom hook. And so we're gonna basically we're gonna use Zustand to be able to create our custom hook use product store that we can be able to use across all the components in our application. So we need to import it like this from Zustand, and here we are importing the product, which is the type product, and also we are importing the products array. And also another thing that I didn't mention inside the products array, so eventually we're gonna need to add the created at property with the date like this. So let's go back to the use product store, and this is how we are going to create our use product store. So the first thing that we should do, we need to create our interface. So we're going to have the all products array, the set all products, and the load products, which is a promise of type void. And here we're going to use the create object from Zustand to be able to create our context. And of course, we're going to use the interface. So these at the top are going to be the states, the default values of the state. So first, the all products is going to be an empty array. The set all products, as we defined in here, it's going to be a function that's going to accept the all products as a parameter. And then here we are going to use the set to be able to update the all products array with the all products that is coming from this argument in here. And here we're going to use the load products function. So before that, I created this function to be able to fetch the products, which is simulating the upcoming products from the server by using the promise. So we're going to create a new promise, and after 1,200 milliseconds, we're going to use resolve to be able to uh, inside of it, and we're going to use the products array. So this product is going to be returned as a promise inside the fetch products function. So we're going to use this like this. So we're going to use this fetch products with the await keyword because it is a promise. And here we're going to use the async. And here we're going to just use this to be able to update the all products from the return products from the fetch products array. So this is basically how we can be able to work with the async and wait. If you are not familiar with this, and all of this, it's used when we are using the API. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the product table. Uh, so let me go to the app table.tsx, and we're going to call the use product store, and we're going to call these two elements, the all products and the load products. So we need to load the products first. So that's the function that we're going to call first by using the use effect hook. So whenever this function is mounted first, it's going to load this function, which it's going to populate the products array inside the all products state. And then we're going to use this inside the data prompt of the product table. So this is basically how we can be able to use Zustand for our state management. So the next thing that we're going to do, we're going to work on adding the product. So we need to create a function to be able to do this and then use it inside the product dialog.tsx inside the onSubmit function. So now we can be able to add a product successfully. And also notice here, as you can see, we're having this red color just to tell the user this is what the column is sorted. And as you can see, the created at column, it's going to be sorted automatically. So whenever we create a new product, so it's going to be always at the top. So we want this to be by default whenever we load the page. So if I reload the page, as you can see, we're going to have the created at sorted by default, which is a good thing. So let's add the new product. So I'm going to add to type in random stuff in here, and let's type in something like this. And I'm going to add the supplier name just like this, just to see how things are working. And also I'm going to add the quantity and some random price like this. And when I click on products, so we're having the load-in text, and here we're having the toast notification telling us that the operation has been successful. And as you can see, our product has been added. So right now it is at the top because the created at column is sorted by default. So let's go back to the VS Code. I'm going to show you how to be able to do this. So the first thing that we should do, we should install the toast. So make sure to copy this command and go back to your terminal in here and paste it in here. And if you're using, again, if you're using next.js 15, so make sure to use the force argument to be able to force the installation. And I think there is some kind of issue with npm. So that's my guess. So after that, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the layout. So make sure to add the toaster object. And also we're going to import it from the UI toaster. And also, um, so I'm going to show you how to be able to use it inside the product dialog.tsx. But first, let's go to the use product store where we are using Zustand. And here what we're going to do, we're going to create two elements. We're going to create the isLoading property, and also we're going to create the add product function, which is a promise that's going to return the object success, which is of type Boolean. And of course, as an argument, it's going to be a product of type product. So here the function, so the first thing that we should do, we should add the isLoading state, and it's going to be false by default. And here, so this is the add product function. So it's going to be async, of course, because it is a promise. So the product, which is the parameter. And the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to update the isLoading state to true by using the set parameter, and then we're going to use this try and catch block, and we're going to add this new promise just to simulate the operation or the request, the post request into the server, and then we're going to add the product like this into our front end. And we're going to return the object success, which is true. And finally, we are going to make the isLoading state as false. And here, so after we set this up, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the uh, product dialog. So let's go to the product dialog, and in here, what we're going to do, we need to add the add product and the isLoading from the use product store. And here what we're gonna do, we are gonna use the await keyword, since this is an async, because we are waiting a response, and the response is gonna be stored inside the result. And since the result is gonna be true, so we're going finally to return this toast notification, and then we are going to close the dialog. So here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna first, before I start explaining this, also make sure um, to use the toast from the use toast hook to be able to make sure that this toast it's gonna work in this function when we create a new product. And what I want to talk about is this dialog close ref. So we're gonna use ref so you can be able to access to the dialog element inside the DOM. And also make sure to add this to the ref property of the dialog close. So we're doing so you can be able to close uh, the dialog programmatically. So this is what we're doing. So after we showed the toast and everything goes well, we're going to use the dialog close ref.current.click. So it's like simulating the click of the dialog. We're simulating the click of the cancel button inside the dialog. So in this way, it's going to be automatically closed for us. And also another adjustment that I did for the selected icon, just to make sure that if you don't select the icon, so this it's going to be selected by default, and we're going to use the find method inside the icons array, and we're going to look for the isSelected property as true, and we're going to use the icon of it so you can be able to store it inside the selected icon just to make sure that the icon property here won't be null and thus we won't have any empty icon in here. So as you can see, everything is working fine. So the last two operations that we need to work on are the delete and also the copy. But also we need to work on the copy operation. So this is what I'm going to do. Then I'll be back to explain everything that I did. So after we can be able to add a new product, now what we're going to do, we're going to delete the product. So I'm going to show you how things are working. So let's take randomly one product and I'm going to click on delete and we're going to have this alert dialog. And when I click on delete, as you can see, the product has been deleted successfully. So let's go back to the VS Code. And the first thing that we're going to do, we need to install the alert dialog from Shadcn. So after copying this and pasting it in terminal, installing all the files needed. So the first thing that we should do, we should create our dialog. So I called it just the delete dialog.jsx. And as you can see, I'm importing all the elements that we're going to need to be able to render our component. And this is how we are going to render them. So all you have to do, just copy this and paste it within the return function. And also I added some utility classes just to make it look like this. So let me open this up just to make it a little bit bigger by adding some padding and some margin in the alert dialog title. So I made the text like this. I added some margin between the description and the title, but also I add the footer. So just to have more space between the button and the text. So after creating our dialog like this, so what we're gonna do, uh, because we're gonna use external states to be able to open up the alert dialog, as you can see. So what we need to do, we're gonna go to the app table, and sorry, we're gonna go to the page.tsx, and here we are going to call the delete dialog. And also another thing that I didn't mention, make sure to delete the alert dialog trigger because we're using this delete dialog inside the GSX, which is the page.gsx. So to avoid showing up the open button at the top in here, since we're using in the main page of our application. So after doing this, so we need to create a logic to be able to store the element that we need to delete. So in order to do so, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the use product store. And here I created the open dialog and the set open dialog. So these states are going to be used to be able to open up the delete dialog that we just created. And also I created the selected product and the set selected product. So this variable, it's going to be used so it can be able to store the row that we need that we want to delete. So that's why we created them. And after that, what I did, I created the delete product that is going to accept the ID of the product as a string, and it's going to be a promise returning an object success like we did for the add project. So before I start talking about the delete product function, so what we're going to do, we're going to go to the actual drop down that we're using in here to be able to open it up and do the modifications needed for the product. And so we're going to go to the colon.tsx, and here we're going to go to this object, the last object in our colon. And here, as you can see, we are returning the product dropdown. So if you watch the whole video, so I added this intentionally because I knew that we're gonna use it when we start wanting to delete or update our product or our row. So if we go to the product dropdown, so here, as you can see, I added some of the modifications. So here, the first thing that I set is the type. So I didn't set the type of the menu item. And also I linked it to the menu items just to make sure that everything is type safe and in the code to avoid having any issues. And here, as you can see, I'm calling these two states that we created from the use product store. And the reason for that, here, as you can see, we're adding the on-click event listener inside the drop-down menu item. So every time that we click on one of these items inside the drop-down, this is going to be triggered, and we're going to pass inside of it the item. So here we are saying if the item that label is equal delete, then we are going to set open dialog to true to be able to open up the dialog. And here we are going to update the selected product with the row that original, which is the row that we selected. So, and after that, um, so let me go to the delete dialog. So since the open property of the alert dialog is linked to the open dialog. So when it's going to turn to true, the alert dialog is going to be opened. So once it is opened and when we click on the alert dialog action, this on-click event listener, it's going to trigger this delete product function. So this delete product function, it's going to use the selected product, of course, and the reason why we used it inside this if statement because it could be null or product. So I want to make sure that it is not null, and also make sure to add all the variables that all the states that we're using from the use product store, like the selected product and the delete product. So before I start talking about this, let me go back to the use product store, and I'm going to show you the delete product. So it's very simple. So what we're going to do, we are going to set the is loading state as true, and inside this try and catch block, we are going to create this promise just to simulate the delete process with sending a delete request to the server to delete the actual product. And here we are going to update our all products states to be able to get rid from the products that we want to delete by using the filter method. Then we're going to return the success object with the true as a value. And finally, we are going to reset all the states, the is loading, the open dialog to be able to close the dialog, and the selected product, it's going to be null to avoid not having any issues whatsoever. So if we go to delete dialog, as you can see, we are waiting the response from the delete product, and we are passing inside the delete product the selected product.id. So if the result is true, then we are going to show the toast notification. So this is basically how we can be able to delete our product. And also inside the app table, make sure to add the all products that link so we can be able to track the numbers in here. So as you can see, everything is working fine. So the last two operations are the copy and the edit. So I'm going to work on them. So now we can be able to update the product. So we're going to take randomly this laptop. So if I click on edit, so as you can see, I'm going to have all the information load up um, based on the element that I want to update. So I'm going to add something in here, and also I'm going to choose another icon. So let me update this one and let me update the quantity, for example, the price like this, and I click on edit product. So as you can see, our laptop has been updated like like we wanted. So all the information that we added inside the actual form uh, has been updated successfully. So when I click again on the add product, so everything is going to be reset. So let's go back to our code. So the first thing that we're going to start from is we're going to create two new states, actually three states, the open product dialog and the set open product dialog. So we're going to use the same pattern that we did for the delete dialog to be able to open up the actual dialog input to be able to update the product. And also we're going to add the update product function. So I'm going to get into this. And now what we're going to do, we're going to go to the product dialog. So here inside the product dialog, so I added many stuff in here, so I'm going to get into them. But first, let's talk about these two states. So these we're going to call them from the use product store, and at the bottom, if we go to the dialog functional or JSX or tag, we're going to link these two states with the open property and the open change property of the dialog tag, just to make sure that when we click on the edit dropdown, so if we go to the product dropdown, here we need to call the set open product dialog, and also inside the handle clicked item. So if the item that label is equal to edit, we're going to open up the uh, the, the dialog, since the open product dialog is linked to the actual dialog, and when it is going to turn to true, then it's going to be opened up automatically, and we are going to update the selected product with the row that we selected. So we're going to use pretty much the same principle that we used for the delete. So the only change here is the dialog that we are going to open up. So after doing this, we're going to go back to the product dialog. And here we're going to add a bunch of things. So the first thing that we're going to add is this use effect hook, and here we are going to use the selected product to know whether we are going to edit or delete or add the product. So here inside this use effect hook, whenever uh, the dialog is opened up, so we're going to check if the selected product is not null, meaning that you are going to edit the actual product. So if it is true, then we are going to update all the inputs, and we're going to use the reset function from the use form hook provided by React hook library, and we're going to update all the properties like this from the selected product. But also we're going to update the selected tab, the selected category, and the selected icon. Otherwise, if the selected product is null, we're going to set all of these by their default values, and these are going to be empty, and the quantity and the price, since this is a number and since this is a float value, so we're going to use them like this. And for the selected tab and the selected category, so these are the default values, and everything it's going to be relying upon the selected product and the on product dialog. And also I did some changes inside the on submit function. So here we are going to use the same logic. So if the selected product is null, meaning that you are going to create a new product, this is going to be running. Otherwise, we're going to create a new object. I called it the product to update. So here we are going to store all the inputs inside the product to update, but the two elements that are not going to be changing that we are going to get from the selected product are the ID because this shouldn't be changing, and the created at this shouldn't be changing. Otherwise, for the other ones, we're going to get their value from the data. Since we're going to change things inside the input, we need to get them from the data. And we're going to call this update product, which is a promise. And so that's why we use the await keyword as we did for the add product. And we're going to pass inside of it the product to update, which is this one. So if we go to the update to the function here. So we're going to go to the use product store and also make sure to add it in here to be able to use it from the use product store. So if we go to our state management code, which is running by Zustand. So here I added this update product, which is going to accept the whole object of type product, and we're gonna run the same logic. The only thing that is going to be different is how we're going to update the all products state. So this is how we are going to update it. We're gonna check if the ID inside the array is equal to the ID that we passed from outside this function. So if it is true, we are going to return the updated product to be able to update the all product state. Otherwise, for the other elements, they are going to remain the same. So and we're going to return the success as true. And finally, all of these states are going to be back to their default values. So hopefully that I was able to really explain how things are working. So it might be a little bit complex and challenging, but with work and practice, you will be able to see the pattern on how this is working and with also repetitive practice. So the last one that is remaining is the copy, which is it is far simpler than the edit and the delete functions. And finally, we can be able to copy the product. So we're gonna take a random product, like for example this one. So when I click on copy, so as you can see, we're going to have a copy of the product, and also we're going to have the copy just to avoid having any duplicate names. And also it's going to have the date, the creation date, which is the current date. And like if we want to delete it, so when we click on delete, and as you can see, the product has been deleted successfully. So let's go back to the VS Code. And here we're going to start from the products dropdown. And we're going to add this if statement. So if the item that label is equal to copy, then we're going to create a new object called product to copy. So it's going to be of type product. And here we're going to use the spread operator just to keep the other elements of the row intact. So the only thing that we're going to change, of course, the ID, since it's going to be a new object or a new product. So we're going to add a new ID. The name, we're going to take the name from the row or the product that we want to copy, and we're going to add the copy. And here we're going to add the date for the created at. Then we're going to add the same function that we created for adding the product. So we're going to add the add product, and if everything goes well, we're going to return this toast notification. So it's pretty simple. So here, as you can see, we completed our application and we learned so many things. And the reason why, as I said at the beginning of this video, the reason why I created this just to be able to learn and know and understand how React Table from TanStack really works, and it is an awesome library for tables to be able to manage tables, and also they have built-in functionalities, as you can see, to make things simple, because the hardest thing in the web development beside authentication is tables. So it became a lot pain-free, and this is what we have in this video. So if you watched the whole video and you built this project, congratulations. This project is going to help you a lot to be able to understand React state management and how to use the most important thing and how to use tables. So thank you for watching again this video, and I'll see you soon in another project.